Welcome one and all. My name is Otaku at Trades, and today is the start of something new that I've been wanting to try for a good long while. So normally I'm over streaming on my own Twitch channel, but today I want to try something new, specifically for my YouTube channel. And that is a new series I want to do called Otaku's 2 Cents, which is going to be a basic review of games that I've currently played in the past or are playing right now. So the way the show is going to work is I'm going to talk about the summary of the game, just very brief, be spoiler free as much as possible, on top of giving my opinions on the good and the bad, while also mentioning stuff like how they could have fixed it if it needs to be fixed, and then talk about the achievements if I feel like the achievements are worth talking about, because I am an achievement hunter, love 100% in games, and I feel like it's a fun little way to spice up games. But there are some games that I think should be played with the intent of 100%ing, and some that I think, yeah, you should probably just push that one aside, because achievements can range from oh, this isn't so bad, to oh, this is actually challenging, to what the freaking hell were they thinking? So, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed the first episode of Otaku's 2 Cents as we talk about Demon Souls. So in this game, we play as the ever-popular and heroic Demon Souls protagonist, John Souls Sr., as we explore the kingdom of Boletaria that is currently in the middle of a slight demon crisis, which was caused by everyone basically getting a little too greedy with soul magic, which then summoned the wrath of a great, giant, old god who basically just looks like a very pissed off pine cone, who is now sending out his own spawn to suck up the souls of pretty much everyone in the land. So, the main goal of the game is that we are attempt number, I want to say maybe 100 to seal this thing away again. And to do that, we need to go around the land and essentially just start hacking to pieces every single thing that tries to kill us or looks at us funny, while we try to gather enough demon souls in order to gain enough power to eventually take down the great old one and seal him away again. So at the start of the game, after you've picked your body type and have decided on your player's name and even what their starting gift is from this lovely list of things, you also get to pick your character's starting class out of these 10: Soldier, Knight, Hunter, Priest, Magician, Wanderer, Barbarian, Thief, Temple Knight, and Royal. So, pretty much these are all here essentially to help get you a start on whatever build you're aiming for. So if you want to be more melee focused, something like Knight or Soldier would be good. If you're wanting to be more magic focused, something like Priest or Magician may suit you a bit more. However, don't feel like you are forced into that specific build if when you pick this class, because you can always pretty much divert from it whenever you feel like it. So you could be a magician that eventually just decides to become all unga bunga and become more strength or damage focused, like a barbarian or a knight. However, it is a general consensus amongst the community that the best class out of all these to start with is Royal. And this is solely due to the fact that Royal is the only class that starts at level 1. But for a level 1 character, if we look at the stats amongst between royalty and all the others, the royals stats are actually not that terrible compared to everyone else who's like anywhere between level 4 and level 6. In fact, in the royals intelligence stat is only 3 points weaker than the magician, the class that specializes in magic. This essentially makes the royal a much more of a blank slate character who can utilize the soul arrow spell it starts off with to an insane degree. And let me tell you, magic is pretty powerful in this game. And so because of this you can also branch them out into any of the other classes as you want. Speaking of stats, let's go over those real quick. There are 8 different attributes in the game that we have at our disposal that will make our character stronger. And each one of these attributes will affect one or more of our character's overall stats. Now, one thing to mention is that no matter which one of these we level up, it will always increase our overall defense, which is nice. It means that we can not feel bad about pumping all of our stuff into magic or whatever and feel like we're going to get bodied by whatever comes our way. Anyways, the 8 stats are vitality, intelligence, endurance, strength, dexterity, magic, faith, and luck. Now, vitality primarily levels up your overall health and item burden. Intelligence increases your maximum MP and can level up your magic memory, which we will talk about in a minute here. Then there is endurance. Endurance increases your stamina and equipment burden, which we'll also go over equipment and item burden in a second as well. Then there's strength and dexterity, which both of these stats focus on powering up your overall damage. Because every single melee weapon in the game, and even the bows, runs on strength and dexterity. Now, some rely on it more than others, but that again depends on the weapon. So if you want to deal physical damage, you need to upgrade your strength and your dex depending on which one you're mainly focusing on. Also, dexterity focuses on reducing whatever fall damage you take. So that's kind of nice, but if you're good, you don't want to be falling at all. Next is magic, which magic only raises your magical power, which is pretty much just how much damage your spells do. Next is faith, which increases how powerful your miracles are, how your miracle memory, and also prioritizes increasing your magical defense. Then finally, there's luck, which increases item discovery and plague resistance. Now, luck is considered one of the worst stats in the game solely because, well, item discovery only really increases the odds of you finding specific items off of enemies, or increases the quantity of items you find off of that drop from enemies. So, in the long run, not that useful, especially the plague resistance, since there's only one place in the entire game that really has you deal with plague, and for the most part, you're not going to be in it long enough for it to really affect you. So yeah, it's kind of a useless stat all around. So now with all the technical stuff out of the way, let's talk about the main thing that you'll be doing as you play through this game. Apart from dying. So anyways, the main focus of this game is that you have to explore all 5 of the different worlds in this game. Each one of these 5 worlds is split into 3 or more different locations based on how many bosses you have to kill in each area. now again, most of these worlds stick to like 3 main bosses you have to deal with. The ones like Boletaria here can have 5, but again, that's just the way it works out sometimes. But pretty much the whole objective is just getting through each world section, beating the boss at the end of each section, and then continuing onward to the next. Now, from what I believe, you only need to get 2 or 3 of the demon souls in each world in order to unlock the final, because I think all you have to do is beat the final boss at the end of Boletaria Palace in order to get to the final boss, but I could be wrong on that. Now, one thing is that while you're in each world, you pretty much you kill the enemies in your way in order to get the souls necessary to get stronger or purchase new items and gear to help you survive longer. You can also find these things. You can also find new weapons and items, and sometimes even spells just hidden around the map. So you do need to keep an eye out for those as well. But now this feat is way easier said than done, because good lord, some of these enemies can just take you for everything you have. Others are just major pushovers. But pretty much it is a task that is easier said than done. And now, one thing is that a lot of people do is that some people will try to make the game harder by doing like level 1 challenge runs. And I'll say this right now, while that is impressive and I do commemorate you for doing challenges like that, I will still call you a psychopath for doing those, because what the actual hell? Now, when you beat these games, when you beat a Soulsborne game, one of the main things that you are rewarded with is the ability to New Game Plus your run, where you are able to essentially continue or start a new journey with your weapons, items, and level all carried over, or as you played through the entire game again. The only real difference is enemies are now harder, and they can drop better items or more souls to help you get stronger faster. So now with this part of the video, this is where I would talk about both the good points and the bad points of this game. However, when it comes to Demon Souls, if I'm being honest, the bad is more glaring with it, in my opinion. But at the same time, everything else about the game is good. So we're only going to be talking about the bad, just because once you understand what the bad points of this are, it's easy. Pretty much all that's left is the good. So essentially, we're just trimming the bad fat off of this, and everything else is good. Now, to be fair, some of this can range from being personal nitpicks, but there are some, at least 2 in this, that are actual genuine problems I do have with this game, and I'll make it very clear when we get to them. So, first one, let's start off with a nitpick, just to give you an idea, which is so if you're familiar with how Soulsborne games do healing items, they usually have some special type of one-time heal item, like an example is like Grace of the Goddess or something like that. But the main thing that they have is the rechargeable healing item, like the flasks in Dark Souls and Elden Ring, or the gourd in Sekiro, for example, where pretty much you can make these items better by increasing their potency or their quantity, but the issue with Demon Souls is that it doesn't have something like that. Instead, you have 6 different types of grass that all heal at different levels, with Dark Moon being the best. However, the issue that comes from this is that it's finite. So once you run out, you have to go and either farm enemies for more, hope that one of the items that are placed around in each world is a healing grass, or you gotta buy it. Which, for stuff like Crescent and Half Moon, is not too bad, because they're usually cheap, and the blacksmith NPC sells Crescent Moon grass, but once you start getting more and more health, Crescent Moon just stops healing like anything. It becomes a major issue when one of your main healing items does not heal enough of your health back. Because just like, if we look here, so yeah, with that much, yeah, like that heals nothing, right? That's essentially an issue when the main healing item at certain points just becomes more of just more of a useless item to carry around. And again, enemies drop them frequently, which you would think would make up for it. Which in some cases it would, if it wasn't for the fact that all these items have weight to them. So if these items did not have weight, or if their weight did not build up as your stack of it gets bigger, this wouldn't be an issue. But the fact that it does, and item burden is a thing, this makes it even more annoying. Because Bloodborne, in my opinion, did this better. Because Bloodborne's healing item is finite. The blood vials, you could only carry a set number of them, and once you use them up, they were gone. You couldn't like rest at like a lantern and get all your blood vials back unless you had them in storage. So you had to either go out and grind them, find them, or buy them. Which you would think would be an issue, but it never was, since the blood vial was always good. It was never like oh hey, you need to get blood vial plus 3 or 6 in order to really get good healing once your health got high enough. No, just the single blood vial was always good, and you could make it better with runes. This is pretty much, at some point, the rest of this becomes kind of useless. Because like at some point, Crescent Moon and Half Moon don't do jack anymore. What you'll want is stuff like Late Moon or even Full Moon, just to fully heal you back up. Now, again, if it wasn't for item burden, if item burden was not a thing, this would not be an issue. Because pretty much for most of these, you can carry usually a lot of it. Like, I believe the most like full moon you can carry is like 25 things of it, which in my opinion does kind of suck, since the original Demon Souls let you carry 99, but I understand why they got rid of it, because it was for PvP purposes. But at the same time, it is still just, if item burden was not a thing, this would not be an issue. Because you could then carry as much of this as you want, and it wouldn't feel like you had to choose, hey, do I want like a new, to carry around a new piece of equipment or something like that, or do I want to carry like a single blade of grass to munch on in case I get a boo-boo. Okay, so for this next one, I'm fairly certain everyone who's played a Souls game is very familiar with the concept of pretty much the bonfire, or the archstone, or in this game's case, archstones. Basically, long and short, they are the unique checkpoints that the game has to offer. The way they work is that they are essentially your warp points and your rest points. So every time you get, and pretty much if you played the Souls games, they are your freaking beacon of hope in a bleak, dark world. As one of the problems that you will always run into and will always be the thing gnawing at the back of your mind is the fact that I am out of resources, I'm about to die, and pretty much now I gotta and now I need to rest, but the last rest point is all the way back where I originally was, and now I gotta run all the way back. Now, in games like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and all that, eventually, or just like bonfires and the like, are scattered everywhere. There's a lot of them in several different locations, specifically in key spots to help make traversal back a bit easier. Usually, to act as a type to help you be prepared for whatever comes next. Now, the issue with this game is the fact that there is a very finite number of these rest spots, because essentially the game only has very limited num a very limited number of these things depending on where you are. So at most, or just the way it works is there is one at the beginning of each stage, which is the one that you start the world at, and then there is one that becomes available after you've beaten the boss. So that means that in most situations, if you when you're fresh to the world, if you die, you have to start the entire run over again, or just the run of that world over again if you die. So you could literally be at the boss and you die to it, and now you got to run the entire gauntlet again. Now, in some cases, this is not too bad. Some worlds are very, very generous with it. Like, once you have found your way to the boss, it is pretty much no problem whatsoever to get back. Because, like, an example here is in Boletaria. Once you have, like, the first boss is literally in this gate inside the castle right up ahead. The only real challenge is to get the just the gate open, which this entire level is all about, just getting this one gate open. But once you get it open, even if you die, you can just start from the first archstone and literally just walk directly to into the boss room to try again if you die. But most worlds are not like this. A lot of them, you will have to literally go through the entire level again if you die, which in some cases can be an absolute nightmare. Because some worlds, again, like Upper Latria, have an have you need to go to several different locations that span the entire map just to get to one location. Now, the problem is that if you die, you have to run this entire massive labyrinthian style gauntlet again in order to pretty much cut down both chains so that you can then try and get to the top to fight the boss. So once you beat the boss, or just once you cut the chains and are able to get to the boss, it's the run back to it is still a pain because there's annoying enemies in the way, but at the same time, it's not as bad as it was before. This is just one of those issues where you wish that in some worlds they would just add at least another archstone in between each section and not and not like have it be, oh no, you get a new one every time you beat a boss. That's your pretty much your only other reward for being a boss aside from getting more progress and a soul. So now the next annoying thing to address here is the soul form and human form mechanic. Now, this is a gimmick that pretty much Dark like the Soul series has used uh in the form of like hollowing or rekindling, like in Dark Souls 3. Now, for this game, however, it is done a bit differently, and it's done in a way that's really annoying. So, as part of the story, we died during the tutorial and now have to play through the whole game in soul form. However, as you can see, with my health, being in soul form has a drawback. That drawback being that you lose 50% of your maximum HP while being in soul form. Now, this can be changed by equipping an item called the Cling Ring, which thankfully you get very early in the game, which raises your HP back up specifically by 25%. So as long as you have the Cling Ring equipped, the HP decrease is only 25%, which is not too terrible. It's manageable, but it's still annoying. Now, you can get your body back. There are two ways of doing this. The first way is to kill a boss. Every time you slay a boss in soul form, you get your body back, which will give you back all of your HP, including the bit you lost in soul form, so you'll be back at 100%. The other method is to use an item called Stone of the Ephemeral Eye, which, upon use, will not only give you back your human form, but also fully heal you. So yeah, essentially an item that not only gives me back my human form, but at the same time recovers me back to my maximum, and I stay that way. That's freaking great. However, this is a trap, and it's a trap for a few reasons. The first one is that, kind of similar to how Dark Souls 3 does it with kindling, or just rekindling using an ember, this only lasts until you die. So once you die, that's it. Your health will immediately drop back to the decreased value, and you're stuck like that until you use another stone or you slay another boss. And these items are very rare to come by. Literally, the last area of World 5's last area is the only place where you can farm for these stones. And they are super annoying to farm because, one, the enemies that drop them are in a place that just inflicts plague on you constantly, and the other is that it's a rare drop. But that's not even the start of it. There is one other reason why being in human form in this game is the biggest trap in the entire freaking game, which we will get into that right now. All right, everyone, buckle up for this, because this one is going to take a while, because I have several paragraphs on this, because this was one of the things I wanted to talk about in this game. Out of all the flaws with this game, I can forgive a lot of them. This is the one I can't. This is by far the worst mechanic that this game has ever implemented, and that is tendency. So, with that said, what's tendency? Well, in this game, there are two types. World tendency, which is basically just stuff that affects the main, like all 5 areas of the game, and the other is character tendency, which solely affects just your character. Now, there are 2 levels, or just two major levels of tendency, being black tendency and white tendency. And depending on how you play the game and what actions you do, will start leaning you more towards white or black tendency. So just to start this off with, let's start off with world, because world is a bit easier to explain. So world tendency essentially, like I said earlier, it affects the world that you are currently playing in. As you can see here, we have a little monitor showing it off. And we got all three different variations of it on here as well, where we've got gray tendency on Boletaria. Most of the worlds are pure white, and then we got one that's pure black. So each one of these has their upsides and their downsides. So pretty much, if you are in pure white tendency, what ends up happening is, one, all enemies become weaker. The enemies that you fight become weaker, and your soul form and your allies that can summon and help you fight become much stronger. Also, new areas and items will become available to you as it will change the world. Now with the new areas, new items, this can happen in pure black as well, but you want to do it on pure white first, because pure black actually screws you over big time. Now pretty much the only problem is that certain enemies will not spawn if you're in pure white tendency. So you do kind of miss out on unique encounters or rare drops that can help you later on, especially if you're achievement hunting. But it's also very easy to swap between them. Or just at the very least, it's very easy to get to black. Because if you want to get pure white world tendency, or just white world tendency in general, it is very limited. So unless basically you gain white world tendency every time you beat a boss. So when a boss is beaten, you gain a bit of white world tendency. Or if you beat a boss-like enemy, for example, the dragons in Boletaria. If you beat one of those dragons, you gain white tendency. One and pretty much that's it. Yeah, beating bosses. That's pretty much the only real in-game way to gain character white tendency. The only other option is to beat back invaders. Which, again, since this game isn't very PvP active anymore, that's not super viable. Now, on one level, seems fine. And you would want pure white tendency. It makes the game easier. But this is where the other side of the spectrum kicks in. And that is how you get black tendency. But first, let's talk about what black world tendency gives you. If you make it to pure black world tendency, the enemies will become like all the enemies in the area, including invaders, become much stronger. Also, the overall health you have will, when you're in your soul form, will decrease. But the upside is that new enemies will appear that can have unique items or unique benefits to you, which we'll get into that when we talk about character tendency. But the other main thing, and what's more important, is that while you're in pure black worlds with pure black world tendency, not only does the item drop rate increase for all enemies, but so does the soul rate, the amount of souls you gain when you beat them. So pretty much, it's actually very useful to be in black world tendency, because it means you can get more souls faster. The only problem is that, again, the enemies, including the bosses, become much stronger, and you suffer for it. Now, why is black? Why am I saying that black world tendency is the worst? Well, that or just mainly the real issue is the fact that you can get black world tendency so easily in this game. Because do I know how you get it? You die. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Every time you die in human form, your world tendency starts shifting to black. So, yes, that means that this game punishes you for dying in human form. So, literally, this just makes. Oh yeah, you can also gain black world tendency if you're killed by an invader. Which, yeah, sure, whatever. But that is so annoying. But on the other hand, unique enemies called like primeval demons appear in black in pure black world tendency worlds. Which, if you're going for the platinum or for unique weapons, you need to kill these things. And thankfully, killing a primeval demon does reset the world tendency. But the other big thing is that special black phantoms spawn in worlds with black world tendency. And you need to kill those phantoms in order to gain character tendency. Which, yeah, with that said, let's quickly talk about character tendency. So, character tendency is basically just the same deal as it's essentially the same benefits and perks and downsides as world tendency, only it affects your character exclusively and not the world. So, oh, uh, when you have pure white world tendency, you become much stronger in soul form. You deal more damage, you're just being in soul form gains a lot more benefits. But if you have black character tendency, the amount of HP you lose in soul form increases to 75%. 50% if you have the cling ring on. So, oh, now the question becomes, how do you gain a character tendency? Well, as I stated, you gain white character tendency by defeating the special black phantom NPC encounters that happen in worlds with pure black world tendency. So yeah, these enemies are extremely difficult to fight, but if you beat them, you do gain pure white character tendency. You can also gain white character tendency by defeating invaders. Now, for black tendency, it's actually really easy. All you gotta do is either invade people or go around killing non-hostile NPCs. So like merchants, for example, or your friends in the Nexus. You kill them and you'll gain pure black tendency in no time. Now, aside from just the permanent buffs or debuffs, there is other reasons for this that you will want this because there are first off, there are rings that you get for being in pure white and pure black character tendency. So if you're going for the platinum, you'll want these. The other thing is that certain side quests with characters that can also be for achievements can only be available if you are in pure white or pure black character, if you have pure white or pure black character tendency. Now, pretty much on paper, this seems like a decent idea. Oh yeah, right. Also forgot that this stuff carries over into New Game Plus. So yeah, your tendencies will carry over into your next game with you. So yeah, if you've got pure black tendency in every world and on your character, yeah, your next playthrough is going to be literal hell. But now, again, uh the main issue with this gimmick, while it is a unique one, the problem is the game does not explain this enough to you. I mean, it will give you a little brief rundown on how tendency works, but it will not explain like how this happens or how you gain it or lose it. It is just a mechanic that is frustrating and will come to haunt you constantly as you are doing this. So, pretty much, if you want a quick tip, especially if you're trying to go for like the platinum, or you just don't want to deal with this crap, specifically for world tendency, if you want to keep your world tendencies pure white, get used to fighting in soul form. So the instant you kill a boss and get your body back, warp back to the Nexus and die in the Nexus. Because if you do, it will not affect any world tendency. So that way you can keep all the world tendencies pure and have a bit of a better control on how you fluctuate with them. So now that we're done talking about pretty much what I think are the worst parts of the game, it is now time for us to kind of start wrapping this up by talking about achievements. So I'd say if you are a fan of the Souls games, definitely try and platinum these because they're not bad. If anything, they're tedious because they require several playthroughs. Now, this one at most is 2.5, but even then, that can be kind of daunting because most of the achievements in this game and pretty much all Souls games focuses on you like beating every boss, getting all the different endings. And with this one also there's like completing some of the side quests, saving some of the NPCs that are in the area. But the three achievements in this that are really annoying are getting the or pretty much the collectible achievements for finding all the magic spells, all the miracles, and all the rings. Now, the rings can be annoying because there are 4 rings specifically that are a pain in the ass. One of them is a ring you get when you have a pure white character tendency. Another is a ring you have to get when you have pure black character tendency and involves a side quest where you have to kill very specific NPCs. And the other 2 are items that you have to get via trade that require very rare item drops, which are annoying to grind for. Now, as for the spells, the main issue with these is that most of them require you exchanging boss souls for them. So, yeah, first tip, look up what every boss soul gives you and keep track of it. Because some of them can get you 1 spell. Then most of them can give you either a spell or a miracle. Then there are those, there are like 4 others that can give you 3 spells. So that's kind of where the half playthrough comes in if you're doing like most of the runs and not using the save state method or just a save state method, because you'll need to get these specific souls multiple times. And what sucks is the fact that these 4 souls, because it's only 4 of them, are all demon souls. So final boss of the world souls, and they're all like some of the more annoying ones because of course they are. Now, aside from that, which pretty much that can be easy or hard depending on your skill level, there's another set of achievements to get, which are the ones for killing very specific bosses in very specific ways. So, some of the bosses in the game, as you can see here, or with these achievements that we are currently looking at, some of them require you to defeat bosses utilizing different methods or by not doing certain things. So, like for example, the Tower Knight, which is the second boss of Balataria, you have to beat it without taking out any of the archer ads in the arena, which means you're not only fighting a boss, but you are now also dodging fire from its allies, which can be annoying. To some that are not so bad, where you gotta beat the Impenetrator Knight, which is the third boss of Boletaria, with a friend, specifically an ally that you can save before you go and fight the Penetrator. To even having to do stuff like um uh don't hit any of the clones that the Fool's Idol makes, or kill the Adjudicator without knocking them to the ground, which is basically just keep using arrows to snipe the enemy. Uh, or pretty much kill the maiden kill the maiden Estrella without killing her bodyguard. So it's a bunch of different challenges that if you know them ahead of time, it's fine. But they can make fights a bit more stressful because you are now having to constantly worry about oh man, do I is there any unique gimmick I gotta remember for this fight to make it easier, or is there anything I got? Is there any achievement tied to doing this? So, oh yeah, that can be annoying. And again, some of these are easier than others. Like the Adjudicator one is very painfully easy. If you got a bow, you can just shoot it in the head and it will drop very easily if you got good range damage. To ones like vanquishing the dragon god with the hands of God, which are basically just a fist weapon, because that fight's just a puzzle fight. If you and pretty much only the final blow has to be from the hands of God. So it's nothing real big. Now, one other now two other achievements that are kind of annoying to get again at this point in the game's life is the ones focusing on PvP, on like PvP and invasion, or just helping other players, because there's an achievement for helping another player vanquish a boss. Then there's one for vanquishing a player that in as an invader. Now, these can be done very easily if you got a friend. Because if you got a friend, you can help them beat the boss. Now, as for the invader one, this is kind of important because this game has this thing set up where you cannot invade characters or other players that are weaker than you. So if their soul level is lower than yours, you cannot invade them, even if you use a password. So you kind of gotta either get lucky with when you're trying to invade someone, or you need to make sure your friend has a character that is pretty powerful to help you out. But for the most part, that's pretty much it for the achievements. Overall, again, not too bad. But if you want my opinion on how you should do runs of this, basically, I would say your first playthrough, if you don't want to use save states, or just the save state method where you pretty much make a copy, or just like you upload your save to the cloud storage, then go offline, delete your save right before you start doing stuff for the achievement, and then start, or so that your progress does not get backed up to the cloud and is instead just saved onto the hard drives file, a save file. You can get the achievements you need there, then delete the save, go back online, pull the cloud save one, and then do the ones you didn't get. Like, that's an option, but if you don't want to do that because you don't want to run the risk of accidentally deleting your save file, here's my method, or my recommendation for how to do some of these playthroughs. So for your first playthrough, you want to try and get as much stuff done as you can, and then try to get a pure white character tendency. So basically this would mean getting all the world. Basically, I would say, yeah, beat the entire game. Yeah, beat the final, or just you beat the final boss. You don't do what you gotta do to trigger an ending, and instead you go get your world tendency down to pure black, beat all the black phantoms in each world, so that your character tendency becomes pure white. And you don't gotta worry about screwing up your world tendency for your next run, because beating a black phantom on black world tendency resets the world tendency back to gray, so you can start your new game plus run with neutral tendency on every world. So pretty much, so yeah, you get pure white character tendency for killing all the characters, or just all the black phantom NPCs. Then you get the ring for that. Then during your second playthrough, you do everything you can during it. Like you get everything else that you left behind in the last playthrough, and get your second ending, while also making sure to get every single world to pure white world tendency. Then during your half playthrough, you get you only focus on the worlds you need to do to get the souls you need for the final items you need, or like the final spells you need, and then you immediately start going killing everyone to get pure black character tendency, so that you can then try and get the last ring. That's essentially how I would say to him do it, but you can do it however way you want. That's kind of the beauty of stuff like this. So that is my 2 cents on Demon Souls. So again, I personally like this game. I think it is fun. The only real thing I was not a fan of was the world and character tendencies, because everything else was kind of just my own little nitpicks. But pretty much, I do think that the game is fun, and trying to get the platinum in it was a pain, but that's pretty much just because it was time consuming, as all the Soulsborne games are. It's time consuming, and if you're going to do it, you're in it for the long run. Now, with that being said, I have taken up way more time than I thought this was going to, so we are just going to end it off here with me thanking you all for watching. And since this is my first time doing something like this, please, I would love to hear some feedback on how I did, if there's some things that could be improved, if there's some, and just ways I can try and make this better, because I want to try and do more of these and maybe other stuff. But with that said, if you want to actually watch me try and get the platinum on this, I do have all my VODs for my Demon Souls run here on the channel. But with that said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and or night, and I will see all of you next time. Take care, everyone.